Welcome back to the Casual Combat MMA show. This is going to be one of our first videos that are YouTube exclusive. We're trying out a little bit different type of content. With me, I have my brother, Nolan Baker, an accomplished combat athlete in his own right, another casual fan of MMA. If you want a little bit more on him, go listen to this week's episode of our podcast. But, Nolan, what do you think about TJ Dillashaw's return? I think that this is something that not a lot of people are talking about. He comes back in January after his 2-year suspension from using EPO or erythropoietin, which for the casual fan is a drug that helps you carry more red blood cells so that your cardio is better without really having to do all of the cardio work. So what do you think? He's back, like I said, he's back in January. Do you think he's coming back at flyweight, bantamweight? Do you think he's going to come back as like a 5 or 6 guy, or do you think they're going to feed him right into a title shot in, a division as deep as the bantamweight division or as shallow as the flyweight division?
Yeah. As far as what weight he's going to return at, obviously my inclination, or probably the inclination of anybody that saw or that is familiar with his past, would say that he's going to return at 135. I'd say that's the smart bet, given the fact that his last performance at 125 ended in a knockout, presumably because of a bad weight cut. Like, he did not look physically well. And also his cut to 125 was what, drove him to take the performance enhancing substances. So, my first thought would be that a return to 125 is out of the question. But I heard somewhere recently, I think it was from Chael Sonnen, and it could have been from somewhere else, but there was rumor that he might return at 125. Like, he thinks that's now more possible than it was before. That seems insane to me, because it's getting bit by a dog and going right back to that dog. But I guess a fight at 125 is possible. At 125, there's the possibility for a revival of the Cody Garbrandt rivalry. That will be exciting in the moment. It's not something that I'm clamoring for at the moment. I feel like that was kind of left behind as TJ Dillashaw exited. I think there's a lot more possibility for, fresh blood at 135. But yeah, it's just, I'm really just waiting to see how it plays out. As much potential is there for a TJ Dillashaw return. I think he's really just going to have to grab my attention. I think by him taking himself out of the mix, it's his responsibility to put himself back into the mix. And yeah, that could look like a ton of different things, especially since we don't know where he's coming back at.
Yeah, I think of it in a little bit different light. And this is just based purely off of my speculation, but I think that, he's in the metaphorical doghouse with the UFC and Dana White at this point, because obviously he was, this great champ, and then he came down to revive the flyweight division and add some more intrigue to the 125-pound roster. And then obviously, doing this, getting banned, I feel like maybe he needs to prove, and again, this is just speculation, it might look better for him in the eyes of Dana White if he does choose to go down and fight at flyweight to generate a little more interest in flyweight, with either, like you said, a round 3 with Cody Garbrandt, or if they feed him right into a title fight with Davison Figueiredo. Right now, Garbrandt pulled out of his 125 title bout with Figueiredo. Figueiredo's defending his title against Alex Perez, which, truth be told, I am not interested in at all. It is a boring matchup, and I don't know whether that's because I don't see it as very competitive, whether I don't know as much about Alex Perez on my part, or whether the UFC just has done a bad job of promoting it, right? But I think they put a lot of eggs in one basket with the Cody Garbrandt, super fight with Figueiredo, that I feel like not only with as deep as the bantamweight division is now, I feel like Dillashaw may be able to have more success at flyweight should he be able to make the weight, kind of build up a little bit more hype behind his name by maybe being a flyweight champ, in order for him to slide into that bantamweight division, A, with hype behind his name, B, with Dana on his side after he kind of paid his dues, and C, coming in as a champ from another weight. Not saying that that is what I predict him to do. I'm just outlining a possible way to success that may be a little bit easier for him to transition rather than to just be thrown to the wolves. To be honest, if he's been off for 2 years, into probably the deepest weight, in my opinion, in the UFC, being the bantamweight division.
Yeah, I think his odds of being a title contender or a champion are, I mean, assuming weight is no issue, it's greatly increased his chances of success at 125. I think
And
he
that's
could
a
do
big
it.
if.
Yeah, and that's a big if. I think there's tons of killers that have improved since he's been gone that would make 35 a way more competitive division than he left it. I don't think he couldn't rise to the top. And to be honest with you, as it's weird because 125, Cejudo quote unquote saved the division. I'd say if there was ever a time when when it needs saving again, it's right now because it's about as lifeless as you could be in my mind. Like Figueiredo interests me. Besides that, I really am uninterested and unknowledgeable on the division. Like it's just lackluster. So I recognize that TJ Dillashaw and Cody, I'm more excited about Cody Garbrandt, but TJ Dillashaw at 125 could be exactly what the division needs. So I will be excited if he decides to go there. And I'm sure I'll get into it. It's just, I still kind of have that bitter taste in my mouth from his positive test. A lot of times guys can argue that, it's like the grass is always greener. When a guy denies the fact that he ever knowingly took substances, then you don't believe him and you say, that's crap and you hate him anyway. And so you'd say, I wish guys would just admit it. And then TJ Dillashaw just admits it. And I'm like, well, then you for sure did it. And so now I for sure hate you. Yeah. So it's interesting. I appreciate he came forward. I still just have a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. So I'm open. I'm hesitant, but I'm ready for him to get back in there and make me excited.
Yeah, and I think my last thoughts on this topic, and it has nothing to do with TJ Dillashaw, well, a little bit, is I think the fact that one of the reasons why 125 is such a floundering division right now is because the guys that are actually true 125 pounders are not brought up and not promoted by the UFC enough, and the guys that do bring intrigue to the 125 pound division are more just like one-offs. You know what I mean? A guy like Cejudo that can't maintain the weight, who end up going up. A guy like TJ Dillashaw, who goes down a weight, can't hardly make it, and then ends up testing positive for steroids. A guy like Cody Garbrandt, who we're yet to see him at 125, but I would assume would not be down there for the rest of his career. I think that was, maybe a 1 or 2 fight deal that would, generate some more hype behind his name, get a few more wins, make some more money, to then the end goal being at bantamweight. I think 125 is just a hard weight for everybody to make that has a big name. And if UFC wants really to promote that division, they need to start building up those top contenders at 125, because outside of Davison Figueiredo and Joseph Benavidez, I really never even heard of Alex Perez, and he's now fighting for a title.
Yeah, I think it's both sides of the coin need to happen. I think UFC needs to be a little more, gung-ho about promoting that division, and I think the fighters need to do a little bit better job at promoting themselves, like having exciting performances, promoting themselves on social media, whatever. I think it's just both sides need to meet in the middle. And yeah, flyweight's kind of an anomaly for me. I can't really, I don't know why it's floundering, or I understand why it's floundering, but I don't understand how it's not able to build itself up,
So that's all of our thoughts on this one. First off, I want to say thank you guys for watching. I would love if you guys hit the like and subscribe button. I feel like a YouTube sellout for saying that, but it really is not so much as me looking at it and saying oh, that's awesome. It really helps our page grow. It gets us into those suggested videos, and I truthfully enjoy interacting with you guys in the comments. So drop your thoughts, drop things that you can think could improve our show. And again, thank you for watching.